The year is 2052. Superintendent Matthew Trix, known to his friends as the Matrix, is in charge of public services for the vulnerable in the north-eastern regional hub of England. He glances at his large interactive screen. The screen gives him ready access to his past, present and future problems. He wears glasses that monitor his eyeball movement to ensure the screen expands and contracts according to his focus. His mastery of eye movement has saved a lot of voice interaction with the screen. The screen identifies the latest problems that need his oversight and resolution. His elderly team have grown over the last decade in response to society changes. The elderly population is now 23% of the national population and hold a significant proportion of the country's assets through the accumulation of wealth or inheritance. In this society, the vast majority of the younger generation are occupationally mobile, work longer years, have restrictive pension opportunities, and share everything from transport, accommodation, and space. The criminal element of the youth look at the elderly as rich targets for psychological, physical, or cyber attack. The sophisticated ones target to steal their assets and what they've amassed in terms of bitcoins. The unsophisticated ones target them psychologically and physically based on jealousy and frustration. The team are requesting more resources because of a recent rise in an attempt by criminal gangs to target lone elderly people to release their assets to bogus charities that the criminals have created. Matthew is convinced that more resources are required and transfers those members of his team who are licensed to practice. The technical team have been under a significant amount of pressure recently. They have a team of officers and staff who do cyber patrolling. They deploy both overt and covert staff across the web. Their aim is to prevent crime and disrupt criminal activity, everything from cyberbullying to fraud. They operate on 3 levels: the web, the deep web, and the dark web. The team in the dark web have been struggling to deal with some of the encryption methods used by criminals. These methods have relied upon biometrics and eye scans, which can still be breached by the team, but they're running out of legends that have taken years to develop. Matthew reports this issue to the Strategic Council last year, and they agreed to fund a new team called the Legend Team to build up covert tactics that could last the next few decades. He decides to send another report to the Council for further considerations. The technical team also operate all the audio and visual patrol of public space. They have a control centre which has access to all listening devices and cameras in the public space, and where owners of private space have agreed to it. A few decades ago, the government introduced legislation to ensure that all new technical equipment produced used common hardware and software that could be easily accessed to support state surveillance. The team also manages the drone surveillance and the driverless cars that are deployed from the command centre. The incident database is analysed using highly sensitive and detailed algorithms to plot past, current and future patrolling requirements. The driverless command cars patrol in key areas and have the capability to control and detain suspects, check their biometrics and their history, and cause arrests to be made where necessary. The vehicles have a range of options to support and control the situations, including the use of lethal and non-lethal options. Once a decision is made at the command centre to arrest an individual, an intercept team of enforcement officers are deployed. The driverless vehicles are regularly breaking down. Much of the problem is electronic bugs in the system, which are disrupting their effectiveness. The repair team have been struggling to manage the return of these vehicles to the streets, and they're calling for more investment in their robotic capability in repairing them. Matthew sends a request for options and costings to the repair team. Matthew sees a notification they will be inspected in 3 weeks by the data governance team. Some years back, to promote one public service, a decision was made that all data held on individuals, locations or transportations would be held by one single authority. The authority would then share the data according to strict principles of necessity and proportionality based on risk, harm and threat. All requests for data are assessed and authorised by senior judges. The inspection team will focus on the provenance of the requests that are being made to ensure they are justified. Matthew knows the vast majority will be fine and hopes the inspection team will miss the borderline few that will inevitably be sitting in the system. Matthew checks his schedule. He has a national tele-meeting at 11:40. This means he has to enter a room and activate access to the encrypted meeting. There's surround sound and imagery that makes him feel like he's really in the meeting room. Colleagues from all the regional hubs will be dialing in to discuss social engineering and the desire of the current government to make plans that could last decades. The days of travelling to meetings have long gone. Most of Matthew's day is controlled and monitored by his electronic wrist device. It monitors his health and well-being, stress levels, and programs relaxation and brain training into his schedule for the day. The data monitors his performance and consequently impacts on his pay. Each superintendent has regional-based salaries with bonus increments based on performance monitoring, academic ability, and the number of skills that they are licensed to practice. Such is the monitoring and control over members that the Superintendents Association are complaining of monitoring suffocation, which is starting to be appreciated as a psychological phenomenon, an issue not affecting the artificial intelligence superintendents that are starting to be deployed. Matthew has 5 minutes free to scan the latest society and police news. It operates on the computer, understanding his interests. The society news focuses on the attempt by the pro-European party for closer working relations. Banner headlines, "Brie entry is best," appears to be gathering significant groundswell across the country. Other headlines are more warming. The Superintendents Association is celebrating its centenary. The current president, Superintendent George Orwell, who worked in the cyber private sector before transferring to public services a few years ago, stated, "Whilst we're celebrating 100 years of this fine association, I'm still genuinely concerned about the pressure on my members. So much is expected from so few." Speaking from Parliament, the elderly peer, Lord Alex Marshall of Bramshill, the former CEO of the Royal College of Policing, said, "The Superintendents Association has been highly influential across policing over the last 100 years. And I'm hoping that they invite me to speak at their centenary virtual conference later in the year." Let's return to 2016. I've just described a personal perspective on how the future of our rank, organisation and society could look like. I've done this to raise a very important point. It's important that we reflect on the past, and it's important that we deal with the present. And it is vital we work towards a 2020 vision for the service. However, there's currently no vision for the police service beyond 2020. Both the President and I are keen to push for a more systematic approach to visioning, which goes beyond the life cycle of Parliament and Chief Officer contracts. You'll hear more about this from our President in his speech to the Policing Minister tomorrow. So you may ask yourself, why should this matter to me? Well, we've got a duty, haven't we, to provide a better service than the one we've inherited. Our staff, who are currently aged 18 to 23 today, will potentially be the senior leaders in 2052. They'll be embracing data, technology, cyber, a changing society, different paying conditions, and everything else the Matrix has identified. I want a service which embraces innovative and creative thinking about the future of society, policing and public services. A think tank that uses the young and the old, the academic and the pragmatists, the government and the operational, to push those boundaries of thinking far beyond 2020. Thank you.